Okay, welcome back to Aces Full of Queens. I'm here. So is my cousin, Crystal, Anthony.
Anthony,
We're
what's up?
living for the Aces. It's been
Always.
2 weeks and there's been a lot of games, on top of which the World Cup, like, especially last night, I was literally watching two games at once. Like, it
You
was
got to,
USA, it was a lot going on.
it's the third game of the third game in the group stage. So you gotta, they play the games at the same time. So what were you watching? The U.S. versus Turkey, and then what was it? Australia versus why am I drawing a blank?
Paraguay?
Paraguay. There we go.
Yes. And
Yeah,
the Aces were playing Dallas. So
yeah,
it was a lot going on. But what we're going to do is just going to do like a quick little recap. We're not going to go deep in depth because there's been like 6 games since the last time we talked. So we're going to get into a little bit of Dallas and the 2 games we played, a little bit of Minnesota, and that darn New York Liberty that I don't know. We just can't beat them yet. So um, it's fine because we will.
yeah.
I guarantee it.
It's early in the season. Nothing's settled yet.
Nothing's settled. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay, well, quickly, let's talk about this Minnesota game. This Minnesota game is the last, well, where we left off. We played the Portland Fire, and then we talked about that. So the next game after that was Minnesota, and this is the
yep.
game that kept us in the Commissioner's Cup, correct?
Yeah, that's right. The Minnesota Lynx, they still have the best record in the WNBA. At the time when this game was played back on June 13th, the teams were coming in. They hadn't played each other, and it was for who was going to have the best record in the Commissioner's Cup. And so ultimately, the Aces came out and won that game 100-97.
Mhm.
This was the first game where Chelsea Gray kind of went off. 6 3-pointers in that game.
Whoa.
Um, Came up huge. Asia had a double double, 24 points, 10 rebounds. Jackie added another 16. Melissa Smith had 15 points. And so it was an all around good effort by, like an outstanding effort by the Aces. The game, um, like watching that game, it was back and forth for most of the game. And the last like 5 minutes of that game, had me, like I was up in Seattle to get ready to watch a World Cup match, and this was the day before that, and my heart's
Mhm.
basically pounding out of my chest, or 2 days before that. But they were able to pull it out, 197, and honestly, they look good in that game. You have players on the links that are really showing out this year. The presumptive rookie of the year, Olivia Miles, she had 29 points, 4 rebounds. That was her, like, first like scoring barrage. Like, one of the things that Olivia Miles has been doing this whole season is like really stepping up the assist game. Against the Aces, she had 1 assist and she was really like scoring the points. And so 29 points from her, 22 points from Natasha Howard, who also added in 9 rebounds. I think Kayla McBride that game also had 19 points. 14. Courtney Williams had 17 points. And so it was an all around team effort. This was really probably the best two teams in the WNBA, really, really going at it. And I know that we're going to get into the Liberty game in a little bit, and like the Liberty probably want to be mentioned in the best two teams category. But I think for me, the Lynx and the Aces, those are the best two teams. I think when it really comes down to it, um, the whoever can, like, whichever one of those teams can like make it to the finals, if it's not both of them, because in the WNBA they don't do the conference versus conference. It's based on where you're ranked, so it's possible that they could both go to the finals. But I think it's going to be one of those two that's really, really competing at the end of the season for the WNBA championships.
Ooh, well, that was a prediction. Uh, I will say, because you had spoken on Olivia Miles possibly being like rookie of the year. I mean, wow. I mean, I was very impressed by her, just her playing. She was out there scoring, passing, assisting, rebounding. Um, so I might jump on that Miles bandwagon.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know if any of the sportsbook have it open for for betting on the futures for Rookie of the Year, but I assume that at this point, you're not going to get a whole lot of value on that bet just because it looks so crystal clear. Like Olivia Miles is playing so well, and with Nafisa Collier still not playing, she's playing so well for the Lynx. She could probably be in the conversation for WNBA MVP,
Whoa.
um, not just Rookie of the Year. And like we haven't seen anything like that in a long time. Candace Parker was the Rookie of the Year and the MVP. That's the only time that's ever happened. But Olivia Miles is playing at that level.
Wow. Yeah, so everybody keep your eyes on Minnesota and on Olivia Miles. Um, okay, so we won that one. Then there was a loss. It was a sad one. Dallas came in, but we got our lick back last night, but we lost by like 30 points the first Dallas game, which
Yeah, so that was
that's
that was
very
actually the
unlike.
second Dallas game. Yeah, it's not. It's one of those things where like going at the last night's game, it's kind of like a question of do the Wings have the Aces number because the teams played in Dallas on May 28th. Dallas won 95 to 87.
Oh, right, okay,
Um,
this was a replay.
okay, that's early in the season, and so then you come back and you have this June matchup, June 15th, and they go back to Dallas, and the Wings beat the Aces 96 to 66. It was a like it was one of the most remarkable in a bad way games that I can
Hmm.
think of from the Aces in a long time. And like the number that I'm going to really hit on here, and we've done our Queen of the Court in the past, and we've done all that kind of stuff. And I've I went with Chelsea Gray over Asia Wilson for Queen of the Court. I think the last time that we did a recording, but in
Yep.
that game against the Wings on the 15th, Chelsea Gray had 0 points. Um, and I
Wow.
just can't like I don't remember ever seeing anything like that. Now because she's Chelsea Gray, she played 29 minutes and still contributed. She had 4 rebounds and 9 assists, but and I think she might have had 2 steals in that game. But the 0 points number is like a really really hard and unusual thing to see. And I think that what we saw in that game was there was basically a point that came late third quarter, early fourth quarter, where Becky had basically just seen enough, and she was like, "It's not our night."
Right.
And kind of called it. And I think that we've talked in the past about like the depth of the Aces roster and how the starters are playing so many minutes. And
Hmm.
so Chelsea played 29 minutes, Jackie played 24 minutes, Asia played 26 minutes. That seems like a recognition that like it wasn't their night. And so Becky kind of like made the decision that hey, maybe we're not going to push this all the way to the end. But I say all of that. I don't want to take anything away from the Wings that night because they played outstanding basketball. Enrique had 22 points. AZ Fudd had 19 points. It was an off game for Paige in that game. She only had 10 points.
Hmm.
And then Jessica Shepard had 15 points and 15 rebounds in that game. And so the Wings really, really brought their A game. And I think they caught the Aces slipping a little bit. And you end up with a 30-point loss there for the Aces. But as you alluded to, they got their lick back. I'm using that because Cheryl Reeves from the from the Lynx they lost to the Mystics um,
Oh.
last week, a couple days ago, something like that.
Hmm.
And it was on the Lynx Pride Night, and Cheryl Reeves came out in the post game conference and got asked a question, and she said they should have done it for the gays. And then, you know, 3 days later, 2 days later, or something like that, they played the Mystics again. They got the win, and Cheryl Reeves came into her post game conference and said they got their lick back for the gays. So I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna say that last night the Aces got their lick back with a 15-point victory here in Vegas at the house. I was there last night. I was watching the Aces and I was watching the USA men's team on my
Hmm.
phone at the same time.
I know you
Very distracted, but at least the Aces did what they were supposed to do even if the U.S. men's team ended up giving up that late goal and losing.
were.
Um, but last night was classic, quintessential Aces being the Aces. Asia 32-9, Chelsea 12 points, 9 assists. Jackie threw in 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Just an all-around effort from the team. Um, I know we joke on this podcast a lot about my girlfriend and her feelings about Stephanie Talbot.
Hmm.
Stephanie Talbot didn't do herself any favors last night. 0 points, 1 rebound, one
Uh,
steal. Connie's gonna get her cut. She's gonna go and talk to like Nikki Fargas or something like that, and get her off this team.
right.
Um, But in all seriousness, we got really, really good play. I think last night from Cheyenne Parker Tyus, 13 points, 2 rebounds. She was playing really good defense. Had a really great block against a player who's a lot taller than her. You know, Delissa Smith had 11 rebounds. It's the kind of like performance that we're used to seeing from the Aces, and it was the last game of the season series for the Aces and the Wings. So, you know, it was unlikely that the Aces were just going to like lay down and like take that kind of beating from a young and up and coming team. Now, last meeting of the season series, there's nothing that says that these teams aren't going to see each other in the playoffs or in the postseason. And if they do, I think the Wings have given the Aces something to think about in terms of what that matchup looks like. Can the Aces beat them in a series? Um, when you're talking about best out of 5 or best out of 7 series.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to. I mean, we got to really be studying because I feel like Dallas is definitely a team that can come back and whip us pretty good if we're not ready. So hopefully there's no more of these banner nights, ring nights that can distract
Well,
from
well,
the
time out, time out,
course
time out,
we're on.
time out, time out. We got to have one more banner night
Oh
because
my god! Oh
we're
my
about to
god!
talk about the Liberty. We're about to talk about the Liberty, which means we're gonna have to talk about the Commissioner Cup's final. But
All right,
I'm gonna let you direct where we're going next.
listen. I feel that the celebration is there and we need it. We have to celebrate these women. But as I said again, maybe these games shouldn't actually count towards the season. And you said that the Commissioner Cup game won't, right?
The Commissioner Cup final doesn't actually count towards the season records.
All
This
right.
is a outside of that. This is it's a standalone game. This game's going to be on Tuesday, the 30th. It's the Aces versus the Liberty again. This time in New York. So the teams just played this past Tuesday here
It
in
was nasty.
Vegas, and
It was ugly.
yeah, it wasn't a great game. And so, one of the things that you hear on TV a lot and a lot of the coverage of the New York Liberty is how tall this team is. And it's one thing to like know that, and it's another thing to show up and see that. Like you walk in and you see the height of all of these players. Their starting lineup with Brianna Stewart, Satu Sabali, Phoebage, Jonquel Jones,
Hmm.
Serena Ionescu. This is a very tall team, and you could see that as the Aces matched up against them. They have Han Zhu coming off the bench. She's 6'11", and she's out there.
Whoa!
She went 2 for 2 from 3 point land. Like, how are you guarding somebody who's 6'11" and shooting 3 pointers? It's just it's a crazy thing to see and be dealing with. And at the end of the day, the Aces lost by 9 points, and so like it wasn't this huge blowout. It was a close game, back and forth.
Yeah.
Which gives me the confidence that come Tuesday, the Aces are going to be ready to like go to New York and win this game. I think there was a little tussle at the end of the game between Jonquel Jones and Chelsea Gray. That there's one thing we know about like our Aces is that they remember these things. You know what I'm saying? They don't like losing, and they remember. They're like the North and Game of Thrones. And so I would expect them to show up in New York next week, ready to go. I still have like a lot of confidence. I think that there are things that need to be cleaned up, and I think that there are things that that just like shots were falling for the Liberty in a way that they weren't falling for the Aces. And I think you saw Becky talk about that in her post game conference that they hit the shooting slump, and how are you coming through those things? Like if you hit a shooting slump, but your defense isn't stopping your opponent, you're always going to end up a little bit behind the 8 ball there. And so I think that's kind of what we saw. I think we saw, Maureen Johannes from the Liberty. She's shooting these crazy 3 pointers that are going in. Um, Sabrina was 2 for 6 from downtown, but she had a double double, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Like the Liberty, they have a lot of firepower. In one of our first episodes when we were talking about this, I said the Liberty are going to be scary when they get their home team back healthy. Well, guess
Right.
what?
Who's back? Right.
Their whole team is basically back healthy, and so as they learn to like play together, they're gonna be in the conversation. I still stand by what I said. I think the Lynx and the Aces are the teams to beat in the
Okay.
league. The Liberty is right there with them, and they showed that on Tuesday. And so for the Aces, they have to now go on the road for this Commissioner Cup final. and try to play their game, try to assert themselves in the game. And I think they have the ability to do that. And then once they do that, Crystal, they're going to
Mhm.
win another trophy. They're going to get another banner, and so we're going to have to go through that whole thing again. And you're just going to have to learn to deal with it.
I just I'm just saying, like, just tone it down. I don't know. Give them a couple hours before they just jump on the court and have to play. So let me talk about this Liberty game a little bit because I was there, okay, and I feel like it was a really good game. It was an amazing game to watch. I mean, the Aces were there was a lot of defense happening. Like they were not getting those. Liberty was not getting them shots easy. It wasn't happening
No,
like you know. It wasn't quick. It wasn't easy to get these shots in. They were very much getting blocked by the Aces majority of the game. And then we weren't getting called. Our fouls weren't getting called out here. Becky had to get up in the ref's face and scream a little bit, which
she
I
got
appreciate.
herself a tech. Yeah,
And it's fine, what you
yeah.
gotta call.
Sometimes you got to get yourself a tech.
It's true. Because I don't know what was going on. I mean, sometimes it's the ref's fault. I'm sorry. Like I'm just gonna say it. Sometimes there's favoritism. I don't know what be going on. This is a WNBA, NBA thing. Like I said, I don't know if this is happening in the NHL, the MLB, but
No, a
we
lot of
got
conversation about these
guys
officials.
back on the court here.
I think there are a couple of things with the officiating. One, we need consistency, and
Yeah.
I don't think that's what's happening from game to game, depending on who the officials are. It's like a wildly different like standard for what is and isn't a foul. I think that we're seeing higher scores in a lot of the games because we're seeing so many more fouls. But earlier in the season, it might have been after that first loss to Dallas, where Becky came out and she said, "We're not getting the same whistle," and I think that was very much the case and something that we saw on Tuesday against the Liberty. Like it seemed like let me look at the numbers here. Um, let's see. Yeah, the Aces shot 8 free throws the
Hmm.
whole game, and the Liberty shot 16. So they shot double the number of free throws as the Aces. And so they went 14 for 16, 88% from the line. So they got 14 points at the line. The Aces went 6 for 8 from the line, 75%. They got 6 points there. So that 8 point difference, I'm trying to do math on the fly there. I got that right? The eight
Yep.
point difference in a game that they lost by 9 points.
Mm.
And so like having those extra points or having that number much more even can change the like strategy and approach that you have to take at different points in the game. It can affect the outcome of the game.
Totally. And I'm just gonna say that we're gonna get our look back because I feel that what happens with the Aces is they lose and then they study because we can be slow to start. First quarter, second quarter. Sometimes we can be slow to kind of get there, and then after halftime we come back strong, hard, and we win. But we're gonna see because, like I said, Liberty they're definitely a force to be reckoned with, like you said, and they have a strong team, a tall team. They're pretty
No,
much
so
back. So,
if I can make a point here, a thing that I really don't like though, and
mhm,
like we can talk about the specifics. Each game is its own thing,
right.
but the Liberty go and they lose 2 games before coming into this game against the Aces. They lose against the Mystics and they lose against the Sparks.
Hmm.
And this is no disrespect
That
to the
was a close
Mystics or
game.
the Sparks. Yeah, yeah. This is no disrespect to the Mystics or the Sparks. I think for the Mystics, I said they were going to be one of the most exciting teams in the league in our first episode. That has proven to be right at times and proven to be wrong at times. But at the same time, they're the youngest team in the WNBA, and they were able to beat the Liberty. Then they went to LA for the 30th anniversary game,
Mhm.
and they lose on a last second shot in that game. Then they come in and they beat the Aces just to go last night and lose by 11 to the Seattle Storm. And like
Oh,
once again, no disrespect to the Storm, but the Storm are 4-15. What I'm
that's
saying? This is not a team that's playing very well. And like, so if we're going to say something about the Storm, I talked about the height and the length of the Liberty. That's something that the Storm can match them on. But at the same time, it's frustrating when you're like, we should have been able to get that one on Tuesday. But We'll get the lick back next week. We'll get the cup. We'll get the banner. The players will get their $500,000.
Yeah,
Crystal will get her new banner raising to complain about. It's gonna be great.
that's right.
Can't wait.
So, what do you think about? Because you spent a lot of time talking about these points off the bench. We lost Kennedy. Kennedy was there in the Minnesota game, and then I think she's been out since.
Hmm.
But Jewel Lloyd has been in, Talbot, and they've been bringing Bell in. Bell had a couple points last night,
Yeah.
and so how's our bench doing? Bench points.
So I think that we got 31 points off the bench last night. So 31 out of 99. It's almost 33% of the points. Coming from the bench. You can't really complain about that. I do think that you would like to see this be a little bit more consistent, like with the points coming from the bench. So I think that that's something in last night's game that I was, like pleasantly surprised, not so much surprised by, but something I was happy about in last night's game. But you go back to the Liberty game,
Mhm.
and you got 20 points off the bench. Cheyenne Parker Titus had 14 points. Jewel Lloyd had 6 points, and so I think that one of the things that's going to have to happen down the stretch is like a higher level of consistency in scoring from either Jewel or from Steph Talbot. Steph Talbot's starting, Jewel's coming off the bench. One of those players, but we need them to more consistently be in the 10, 15 point range.
Mhm.
And I think that that'll really like lift the team and help overall. So that's something we'll be like looking to down the stretch. In the Wings game last night, or
Mhm.
sorry, in the Wings game last night, I think I confused myself. Last night was the 31 points. In the first Wings game where they lost by
30.
30 points,
Yeah.
they ended up with 29 points off the bench. Jewel had 21 points.
Oh.
But I also think that that is an indication of, like I was saying, it looked like Becky at one point was like, I just got to call it. And so Jewel spent more time in the game. She had 31 minutes in the game that game. And so once you like move the starters out and bring a bunch of the bench players in, Jewel's the obvious scoring threat there. And so I think that might be an indication of what you're seeing there. But the production is getting better since we talked about it before.
Mhm.
But I think that it's still like, I was talking to somebody earlier today that was like, I love KB. She can go be a cheerleader because she's good for energy. We need somebody who can come in that spot and get a bucket. And I'm not arguing for KB to be off the team, but more
Uh,
consistency in that scoring would be like a real like boon for the team.
okay, fair enough. Okay, now a couple things non-aces related, just WNBA related over here. This stuff been going down. First
You're gonna
thing,
do this.
yep. First thing we got to talk about. Well, we're gonna get to this other thing over here, but the first thing is the sad news of Kelsey Plum being
Hmm.
out,
Yeah.
like down and out, and maybe re-injured, and maybe out for like a long
4
time.
weeks. They said she's going to be out for probably 4 weeks, which is really, it is really sad and disappointing for her. I think that she had put herself into the MVP conversation with her scoring and the contribution she was giving to the LA Sparks this season.
Mhm.
And you look at that game that the Sparks played yesterday without her. Marina Mayberry had 53 points, tying
Wow.
the WNBA record for most points in a game. She tied the NBA record for most three pointers in a game. That's all great. Like, not to take anything away from Marina Mayberry, but like this Sparks team looks lost without Kelsey Plum on the
Mm.
floor. And I don't know where you make up that kind of production. And so it's really sad for KP because she was probably in a place where she could be in the conversation for MVP. And now missing that much time, it's just gonna be hard for her to come back and like stay in that conversation.
Yeah.
Really sad for her.
4
I
weeks.
hope that her rehab goes well and she's back on the floor sooner rather than later because I think KP like that the plum dog energy is something that the league needs.
Yeah.
And so I hope to see her back on the court soon.
Yeah. And 4 weeks is a long time to not be playing. We'll be into a whole nother realm at that time. So we're keeping our thoughts and prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And over here with the bullshit. So Alyssa Thomas has been suspended for a game. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. This is. I don't know what this is. This is just some stuff.
Are you okay? You gonna be okay? You can't even
We
get your thoughts
all right.
together.
The thing is that because we don't like to talk about race, and we don't want to bring it there. I mean, I'll bring it there, but we don't like to bring it there for the women. We're trying to make this, not the NBA or whatever. But
Mhm.
what the hell's going on? Caitlin Clark is over here crying. I mean, she's always crying. Okay, that's what she does. And for whatever reason, the WNBA be protecting her, giving her, you know, uh, cloud cover. When this is a physical sport that she
Mhm.
has embarked on, she's been playing this game. It's not new to her. I watched the video. I watched it in real time. I watched it in slow motion. Broke it down. I understand. In slow motion, it does look bad,
Mhm.
but when you're playing in real time and you look at it, this is like half of a second or something, and
Mhm.
bodies are moving. And look, you could definitely call it a foul. I would definitely call it a foul. You might even want to call it a flagrant foul. But
Mhm.
suspension, I'm I'm very upset about this because that's just to me. This is just like not good sportsmanship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
So
let's be women. Let's ovary up over here. And I understand, like you might have felt away, but you had to look back at the tape too and feel like, all right, like I'm not hurt. There's no mark there. I'm not choking. You know, there's a lot of flopping that's been going on, and so I'm just. Let's just keep it real, ladies. Let's not be the NBA. Let's be the W and ovary up over here.
um, well, I'm not gonna like tell anybody to over up. I don't think that's my place. But so I think with this we got to have like a couple of like we have to separate a couple of things because I think there's a lot that's like getting conflated here because of the players involved
Yeah.
and the situation. So let's take things a little like one thing at a time, right? So the first thing is Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever have announced that she's not going to play in their next game. She's injured. I think it's very important to like remember the fact that she got injured on a play that was not the play that we're talking about.
Okay.
She got injured later. Like she shot a shot, she fell down, and immediately like grabbed her back. And so I
Her
think it's
neck, did
important
she
to.
get injured in the neck later?
So no, no, like she ended up being in the game for a little bit, and then came out of the game and never came back.
Okay.
And so her injury is to her back. Now she had a back injury earlier in the season. This was the thing we talked about a little bit, where the WNBA was all like, "Oh, you guys are messing with the injury report. Here's a warning. You got to make sure that you're doing all that stuff right." So her back injury does not appear to be related to the incident with Alyssa Spence or Alyssa Thomas, and so I think that's an important thing to get out of the way from the
Yeah.
top because that's separate from this conversation. And
Okay.
so then after that, I think there are two separate conversations to have: the Caitlin Clark conversation and the Alyssa Thomas conversation.
Hmm.
So we're hearing over and over again about the flopping and the complaining and the attitude and the technical fouls and all that kind of stuff with Caitlin Clark. And and like you're my cousin. You grew up with me. I've been accused of being a sore loser a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? I do not like to be losing, and so like I've never been a flopper or anything like that in any form or fashion. But like somebody who's gonna complain and gesticulate and yell and all that kind of stuff. Like I get that. I think that's just competition, and I think that's her
Okay.
being a competitor. Now the part that you're bringing in about the league trying to protect her and all that kind of stuff, I think we have seen this, and I think that you're very like astute to like point to. We don't want to become the NBA
Hmm.
because if you roll way back to when Michael Jordan came into the league, how
Hmm.
did the Detroit Pistons deal with the Chicago Bulls when Michael Jordan was coming up? Even once they got Scottie Pippen on the team and everything like that, that was the Jordan rules, where the Jordan rules were just to like knock the shit out of them. You know what I'm saying? Like make sure that he keeps picking himself up off the ground. And so then a combination of him getting his weight up, getting in the gym, putting some muscle on, and the NBA being like, "Hey, we can't play like that. This guy is our star. He's our future. That's what we're gonna see." I think though the combination of those things is what kind of like led to the changes in officiating And this was not to say like that happened in the late '80s, early '90s, and then the '90s were rough.
Yeah.
Um, but then as you started getting some of these players who were more perimeter players and it became more of a three-point shooting league, you see how the officiating in the NBA has changed, and now we have the game that we have now. And I think a little bit of that is what's happening
Mm,
with Caitlin Clark in the W. Like she is like whether you like it or not, eyeballs are watching because of her. And
sure.
so she's a meal ticket. And I think that the league they want to make money. And so they're looking at that and they're like, we can't have all this stuff going on with Caitlin Clark. And it's trying to balance this thing between, she's getting all these people interested. And I think that people should be interested anyway. It's a great product they're putting on the floor.
I
These
think they
women
are
are
still. Yeah.
yeah, right. These women are phenomenal in their ability to like play this game and really, really put on a show.
Yeah.
But I think the WNBA is concerned about like their pocketbook. And so there's a little bit of that. So that's like the Caitlin Clark conversation here.
Okay.
Then there's the Alyssa Thomas conversation, and this is where like I don't know that I'm necessarily the best person to have this conversation because I get that Alyssa Thomas plays this like more rough and tumble style of basketball, but I
Sure.
also think to an extent it's dangerous.
Okay.
Um, we talked a little bit ago about Nafisa Collier for the link. She hasn't played this season, and so Olivia Miles is like plugging in, and she could be in the MVP conversation. She's probably going to be the Rookie of the Year, all of that. But Nafisa Collier still hasn't played due to an injury that she received from Alyssa Thomas
Ooh.
last playoffs. You know what I'm saying? And so I think when I say we're having the Alyssa Thomas conversation, I think the league's also looking at like accumulation effect. You know what I'm saying? Like you have a big star player in the Fisa Collier who's not playing because she was injured by Alyssa Thomas, and now you have this thing happen with Caitlin Clark. And so I think that it's a accumulation effect. But I would like I'm not naive enough to believe that it's not doesn't have something to do with all the clamoring online and on TV about protect Caitlin, and all of that. And then the last piece of this conversation that I'll bring in is these teams had just played a couple of days ago in a game where Heinz Allen got thrown out of the game, in a
Mm,
game where there was the whole kerfuffle between Sophie Cunningham and Dewana Bonner, and where
right.
Caitlin ended up
Right.
getting a technical foul. And so, like, I think that I think that what you're seeing in this particular result has a lot to do with the accumulation of all of these things. Like the officials in this second game should have been prepared
Hmm.
for anything. And I think that like if that situation that happened with the punch to the neck happens in the game and it gets called a foul in the game and a flagrant in the game, there's a lot less like upset about it after
Right.
the
Because this
game. But
happened
for
after
that
the fact.
right, so but for this for that to happen in the game because it's clearly a foul and it's probably a flagrant foul.
Yeah.
Fine. If that call gets called in the game, then it was handled in the game. But for that to happen, for no call to come, then for Caitlin to get injured and leave an unrelated thing, it just builds on this whole thing. Like as
Mm,
soon as the game ends, especially because the Fever ended up losing that game, where oh well, something's got to be done. And so I think that like the officials in that game should have been prepared, given what happened in the game just a couple of days before. And so I think the combination of all of these things creates this like whole like
it's narrative.
conversation that we're having. Yeah. And so I think that it's important to separate the things into the parts, but also be able to understand them as they exist together.
Thank you. I really appreciate this breakdown because that's true. And um, I didn't realize that Nafisa was injured by Alyssa and hasn't been able to come back. That is, um, that's a big piece of the puzzle here. So
Yeah.
we can also say, yes, like these officials are looking at an overall behavior. We can compare it to like a Draymond Green in the NBA, aggressive player, physical player,
Yeah.
and
And I want to be clear. I just want to be clear that
things to get this.
I don't think that she was trying to do anything
No,
dirty in the Nafisa Collier situation, and
okay,
I don't think she was trying to do anything dirty here. But if you're not trying to do something dirty, but people keep getting hurt around you, eventually, the powers that be are going to do something, and like
yeah,
what they do, you know,
you have
is their decision. You don't get to control that, and so a one game suspension for her really hurts the Mercury. Like the Mercury have been struggling with her and all the assists that she brings to the table. It's going to be really hard for them in their next game without her.
Well, I guess we're just gonna see. We're just gonna see where this narrative takes us because, uh, you know, listen, I'm not a hater. Okay, I recognize good sportsmanship and good playmanship and all the rest of it. And so Caitlin Clark obviously is a good player. She deserves to be in this game. She deserves to be talked about. She brings in numbers. She brings in people's excitement and their eyes and their ears, and that's a good thing for the overall WNBA.
Mhm.
So there is no hate when it comes to that. But when we talk about whining and complaining, and because to me that sounds like there was a muss and a fuss after the game because A, she got injured, and B, they lost. It was like, well, something's got to happen. Like they can't think. Alyssa Thomas can't think that she can get away with these things. So we gotta punish her, or at least make it
Yeah,
seem as though she's
yeah,
not
and
getting away with it.
I think that's what I was saying with like, if you call it in the game, then it
Yeah,
seems like it was handled. You know what I'm
right.
saying? But it's the no call, and I think this goes back to the conversation we were having about the Liberty and Aces game and the consistency in calls. Like when I'm watching that game and I'm seeing all these off the ball penalties fouls being called, and I'm like, is that really a foul? You know what I'm saying? But then you see something like that, and they don't call it a foul, and I think that like in any sport, in any league, the players want consistency from the officials. They want
Yeah.
to know what to expect, and then they can adjust to that. But if you're doing one thing in one game and it's not a foul, you're doing something in another game and it is a foul. Like it just creates confusion. And I think that the officials in that game between the Mercury and the Fever, especially with being on notice from what happened in the game a couple days before,
Hmm.
there's no excuse for them not handling the officiating of that particular moment much better than they did. And like I understand that they're human. You know what I'm saying? Like this is because the thing that gets held up, and you framed it like this when you started. You watched it in real time. In real time, it happens so fast,
So
and the
fast.
officials have to be looking to where the ball is. And so the thing that happened there is that like the ball was already gone. And so
Hmm.
like if you're the official, you look up to see where the ball is. You might not have even seen that. But all these cameras around the fans saw it, and that's where you end up getting into this situation.
Yeah. And listen, at the end of the day, I love to see it. I like the physicality. Throw them bows. I'm not mad at it. But like you said, let's be consistent so we know that now we know that kind of an open fist to the neck ain't gonna fly. Now if I see it again, we better hear about a suspension, or we better hear about a flagrant foul too, or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
because I don't want to see that again and this not happen. I mean, this is a little extreme, but let's be consistent. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that physicality is part of the game,
That's
and so everybody's got to just get used to that. I don't think we need to turn it into hockey. Like it sounds like Crystal wants them to be able to have like a, let's box it out corner.
No, I'm just
Uh,
saying, hey, listen, like, let's play this game. Like, play the game.
this is like when we were kids and we used to get them boxing gloves out. That's what Crystal wants for the WNBA.
Ah, listen, I can't say that I don't love it. I don't. I like to see the game be played. I like the passion. I like the love, and I want to win. At the end of the day, the Aces don't really have to do that. We don't do these things. The Aces are classy, but if Kelsey wants to throw one out there, I ain't mad at her.
You got to be stopped. You got to control.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. We just want to give you a little recap because there's been a lot going on. The World Cup's happening, and obviously we're rooting for the USA. Maybe you're not. Let us know who you're rooting for.
Yeah.
But
USA. I put my money on England, and then they dropped a dud in their second game. But I'm still like I'm not backing off of it. Mainly I'm not
betting
backing off of it.
on
I-
England.
but I'm betting on England. Like they got the amount of attacking power that they have on that team. The new coach Thomas Tuchel, he's got their he. I thought he had their defense in order. The last game. has me guessing that, but I'm sticking with it mainly because the sportsbook's not going to give me my money back, so I
Right.
got to stick with it. No, I'll be interested to see how well the U.S. can do um, in this tournament. And so next game is against Bosnia. Knockout stages. Let's go ahead and get this win. I think they're playing it in the Bay Area for that one against Bosnia. So
Oh,
get
nice.
that and see if we can keep pushing it. As long as we get further than Mexico and Canada, it's gonna be cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like this CONCACAF rivalry runs deep.
Yeah, I heard that. And as for the Aces, we'll see them again on Tuesday.
Yeah. So they got coming up on their schedule. They have I just had it up and then I messed it up. So yeah, coming up on their schedule, obviously Tuesday they have the Commissioner Cup final game against New York. So rematch against the Liberty, this time in New York. The only thing the Liberty fans really have to look forward to there is what Ellie's going to be popping out with. Because
Really?
on the court, there's not going to be much to enjoy for them.
That's
But so they have that game on. They have that game on Tuesday. But before that game, on Sunday, they play at the Chicago Sky. Um,
Oh, great.
then they play the Liberty in the Commissioner Cup final. Then they play the Chicago Sky here next Friday, July 3rd. And then the Fever on July 5th. So
Uh-oh.
a lot coming up here for the Aces.
A lot coming up for the Aces, guys. So stay tuned. Summer League's coming. There's a lot going on, especially
A
here
lot
in
going
Vegas.
on.
But we love it. We love
We
it.
do.
And we appreciate it. So thank you all for listening and stay tuned for next time.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
See you then.